Welcome back to the program. So we are the day after the election and the win of Donald Trump, and Kamala Harris is soon going to give her concession speech at her alma mater, Howard University, and we're going to see what kind of speech she's going to give. Yesterday, Donald Trump won by a big margin, and the Kamala Harris campaign did not speak to her supporters at Howard University. She told them to go to bed and come back tomorrow. And now, apparently, the word is that Kamala Harris has already called Donald Trump to concede. And now we're going to listen to her speech, which I believe is going to be very important for her political future. We will see what kind of speech she does and whether she embraces the message of unity that she claimed to be during her campaign, even though her campaign was very far from that. We will see in defeat whether she sticks to this message and sort of tries to bridge the gap with the other side of, or if she goes on the other side and makes a speech sort of trying to push people to resist all the way the dictator and authoritarian that Trump is. So we will have to see, because her campaign had this sort of two faces of her campaign. On one side, she said she was the candidate of unity and that Trump was divisive, and on the other side, she called him a Nazi and his supporters fascists and whatnot. So we'll have to see which way is her concession speech going to go. And I believe if Kamala Harris does not embrace unity in this concession speech, then her political future will be over. So let's move on now and let's listen to what she's going to say.
I'm surprised, but it shouldn't have, to be honest. I mean, the evidence has been there for years about Joe Biden's deep unpopularity, about this administration facing serious headwinds. And the Democratic Party's response for most of that time was to lecture folks, was to tell them that inflation wasn't as bad as they felt, was to demand party loyalty and tell people who wanted things like a primary or wanted a more open process at the beginning of this.
Or border security.
Every kind of lane you want to look at, they did not realize the seriousness of this until too late. And so by the time the candidate switch happens, I do think it's fair for them to say that, yeah, they were working out of a hole. But I think we should also acknowledge that it's the same people who supported Joe Biden's re-election campaign that put them in that hole. And for a lot of the voters, I think Democratic base, we were hearing earlier this year a sense of shock that these were their options, that they did not get a chance to really weigh in on the direction of the party and recalibrate from the last time they had a primary in 2019. And the feeling was, if they did not do that, they would not have a unified front to be able to defeat Donald Trump, and that turned to be reality.
It does seem like there is, Jamie.
And he's very right, and not many people on the Democrat side have had this kind of analysis to realize really this failure was a product of the Democrats' own making, refusing to make a primary and just having the party impose the will of the leaders of the party from a very top-down fashion and forcing the base to either endorse and vote for the candidates that the leaders of the party have chosen, instead of doing the opposite, doing it from the ground up and having the base choose a candidate to vote for, forcing someone that had a 29% approval rate at the top of a presidential ticket. That was a losing strategy to begin with. But of course, what he's not going to mention here is the campaign finance reason for which they had to parachute Kamala Harris, because all the donations had been made for the Biden-Harris campaign. And if they had had a primary, then perhaps they would have had to return the donations that had been made for the Biden-Harris campaign. And by doing so, they would have lost hundreds of millions of dollars that were already in their coffers. But perhaps it would have been a better strategy, because they could have managed to raise that again with someone else. But You know, as we said in the channel, when the switch between Joe Biden and Kamala Harris happened, most of the heavy hitters on the Democratic Party, they were not willing to go in this presidential campaign after Joe Biden dropped, simply for the reason that first, you have the track record of Joe Biden that's going to hurt you in your campaign. It's going to be very difficult to turn things around where people are so upset with the economy and the way that the Biden administration had managed the country. And also, a lot of the heavy hitters at the Democratic Party, they are in a pretty good situation. People like Gavin Newsom, for example, there is no need for them to throw themselves in a presidential race that would completely derail their political career just at the last moment to try to cover for Joe Biden, when they can wait until the next 4 years or the next 8 years and then have a sort of blank slate campaign where they can actually do the job that they want. And perhaps Kamala Harris, as we had suggested already in the past, was a sort of fuse for the Democratic Party. They knew that they were going to burn her on this election. And because she wasn't the most politically savvy and the person with the most political ambitions in the Democratic Party, then she took the opportunity to run for president, because perhaps this opportunity would have never happened for her in the future if she had said no. But by doing that, she set herself up for failure, running in a presidential election in which she had a very, very low odds of actually winning because of the track record of the Biden-Harris administration. But let's listen to what he's saying.
Thank you. So let me say, and I love you back, So let me say, my heart is full today. My heart is full today, full of gratitude for the trust you have placed in me, full of love for our country, and full of resolve. The outcome of this election is not what we wanted, not what we fought for, not what we voted for, but hear me when I say, the light of America's promise will always burn bright. As long as we never give up, and as long as we keep fighting. To my beloved Doug and our family, I love you so very much. To President Biden and Dr. Biden, thank you for your faith and support. I thank you all. Look, I am so proud of the race we ran, and the way we ran it, over the 107 days of this campaign. We have been intentional about building community and building coalitions, bringing people together from every walk of life and background, united by love of country with enthusiasm and joy in our fight for America's future. And we did it with the knowledge that we all have so much more in common than what separates us. Now, I know folks are feeling and experiencing a range of emotions right now. I get it. But we must accept the results of this election. Earlier today, I spoke with President-elect Trump and congratulated him on his victory. I also told him that we will help him and his team with their transition, and that we will engage in a peaceful transfer of power. A fundamental principle of American democracy is that when we lose an election, we accept the results. That principle, as much as any other, distinguishes democracy from monarchy or tyranny. And anyone who seeks the public trust must honor it. At the same time, in our nation, we owe loyalty not to a president or a party, but to the Constitution of the United States. And loyalty to our conscience and to our God. My allegiance to all three is why I am here to say, while I concede this election, I do not concede the fight that fueled this campaign. The fight for freedom, for opportunity, for fairness, and the dignity of all people. A fight for the ideals at the heart of our nation, the ideals that reflect America at our best. That is a fight I will never give up. I will never give up the fight for a future where Americans can pursue their dreams, ambitions, and aspirations. Where the women of America have the freedom to make decisions about their own body and not have their government telling them what to do. We will never give up the fight to protect our schools and our streets from gun violence. And America, we will never give up the fight for our democracy, for the rule of law, for equal justice, and for the sacred idea that every one of us, no matter who we are or where we start out, has certain fundamental rights and freedoms that must be respected and upheld. And we will continue to wage this fight in the voting booth, in the courts, and in the public square. And we will also wage it in quieter ways, in how we live our lives, by treating one another with kindness and respect, by looking in the face of a stranger and seeing a neighbor, by always using our strength to lift people up, to fight for the dignity that all people deserve. The fight for our freedom will take hard work, but like I always say, we like hard work. Hard work is good work. Hard work can be joyful work. And the fight for our country is always worth it. It is always worth it. To the young people who are watching, it is... I love you. To the young people who are watching, it is okay to feel sad and disappointed, but please know it's going to be okay. On the campaign, I would often say, when we fight, we win. But here's the thing. Sometimes the fight takes a while. That doesn't mean we won't win. That doesn't mean we won't win. The important thing is don't ever give up. Don't ever give up. Don't ever stop trying to make the world a better place. You have power. You have power. And don't you ever listen when anyone tells you something is impossible because it has never been done before. You have the capacity to do extraordinary good in the world. And so to everyone who is watching, do not despair. This is not a time to throw up our hands. This is a time to roll up our sleeves. This is a time to organize, to mobilize, and to stay engaged for the sake of freedom and justice and the future that we all know we can build together. Look, many of you know I started out as a prosecutor, and throughout my career, I saw people at some of the worst times in their lives. People who had suffered great harm and great pain, and yet found within themselves the strength and the courage and the resolve to take the stand, to take a stand, to fight for justice, to fight for themselves, to fight for others. So let their courage be our inspiration. Let their determination be our charge. And I'll close with this. There's an adage an historian once called a law of history, true of every society across the ages. The adage is, only when it is dark enough can you see the stars. I know many people feel like we are entering a dark time, but for the benefit of us all, I hope that is not the case. But here's the thing, America, if it is, let us fill the sky with the light of a brilliant, brilliant billion of stars. The light of optimism, of faith, of truth, and service. HU. And may that work guide us, even in the face of setbacks, toward the extraordinary promise of the United States of America. I thank you all. May God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America. I thank you all.
Right, and so here it is, the Kamala Harris concession speech, and she a little bit she goes out the same way she came in, a bit of a lackluster speech, no obvious mistakes. She didn't call to protest, she didn't call to fight. She had a little bit of that inclination, but it was tame enough so that it wasn't outrageous. You need to keep fighting for the things that we believe in. That is somewhat in the realm of the politically acceptable discourse. And overall, it wasn't. It was a speech that was very much like her campaign. She kept the same talking points that she talked about during the campaign: the dreams, the ambition, the aspiration. I have been a prosecutor for many years, and in many ways, this concession speech was very much like the speeches and the interviews that she did. She is not someone who has a oratory talent like Barack Obama, not someone who can use sort of that skill, that communication skill to really get people going. We didn't see a strong reaction from the crowd here. Of course, the mood was pretty depressed, of course, because Kamala didn't win, but at the same time, she didn't really manage to get people excited, even in defeat, and that's because she doesn't really have that talent of communicating and talking to people. And I think this is going to be the end of Kamala Harris's political career. I think she's going to move on to other things now. She went very, very far in a very short period of time, but perhaps rising to the top that fast was ultimately her downfall. And as we were saying earlier, when you don't take the time to build a base and you ascend so fast, then the downfall is sort of the same dynamic and trajectory as the ascendancy. And then now politically, it's very unlikely that she's going to be able to recover from this defeat, knowing that she doesn't really have this base of support that she can rely on for the future. But as a sort of media personality now, she's probably going to have a lot of opportunities, and she will probably seize on that. But this concession speech, a little bit lackluster. She didn't really sort of get people hopeful about the political future of the movement that she claimed to be the lead of. And perhaps one of the problems that she suffered throughout this campaign is that she didn't really lead a true political movement like Barack Obama or Donald Trump. She was sort of a person who was parachuted at the top of a presidential ticket to replace Joe Biden, who himself was sort of a candidate that was just elected in opposition to Trump. But after 4 years of terrible management of the country, Joe Biden became an obstacle to the Democrats being able to get this presidential election. And Kamala Harris never had the time to really define herself and didn't really take the opportunity to truly define herself as a political force, as someone who was leading a true political and ideological battle for a vision of the country. And she just came sort of as a last-minute replacement to carry more of the same policies that Americans had already decided were not for them. And so now, for Kamala Harris and for the Democratic Party, there's going to be a moment of soul searching, and the Democrats are going to have to think about what their political future and the sort of dynamic and direction in which they want to take their party is going to be, because it seems quite obvious after this big defeat here for Kamala Harris that the direction that the party had taken over the last decade is not the answer if the Democrats want to get back in power. Ever since Obama, every single candidate that they're putting out there is doing worse and worse and worse. And at some point, they're going to have to course correct if they want to get back in winning position in American elections. Anyway, thank you all for watching this video, the Kamala Harris speech. We will see what happens with her political career. We will follow her and see where she ends up. So don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you want to keep up to date with all those news. Also leave a like, and I will see you all on the next video.
Hit me with that like and sub to the channel. Hit me with that like and click the effing bell. Click that bit, alright. The algo recommends for sure you gon' like. The algo knows you are. Hit me with that like, subscribe to the channel. Hit me with that like and click the effing bell.